Dr. Satyan. Can I share my screen? So very good morning to all of you. Thanks a lot for inviting me for this talk. It is my proud privilege to deliver this talk in front of this August gathering. I'm going to talk on factors affecting the long-term treatment outcome in craniovertebral pathology. The analysis of clinical has to be in each and every case. Now, suppose you see this case. What is the problem? Even it is operated, the outcome was not good. And why it had happened? There is a significantly reduced clivus canal angle, increased atlanto-dense interval. There is a reduced retrodental space. Radiological features of neural compression is there. So there is poor neurological recovery, or there may be neurological deterioration in some cases. Backed out implant before bony fusion, it is going to leave instability and deterioration. The rod breakage and loss of initial reduction. And you see in this case, there is a appearance of the kyphosis. Some of these cases, they come to us and, everything has been tried earlier by the previous surgeon, but this becomes a difficult task to revise it. So we should be aware about, all these factors. There is a persistence of occipitocervical kyphosis. You see here, clivus canal angle is 90 degrees. There is a cervicomedullary compression, and that has led to the neurological deterioration. Compromised alignment and fixation. In this case, there is a persistence of kyphosis. Dens is still angulated significantly because there is inadequate levels of fixation. And this is classically known as toggle effect. So there is a significant forces working in this region. One level proximal and one level distal surface fixation is inadequate. The biological factors must be addressed properly. If there is an inadequate fusion, this is going to happen. And it is most common at the graft C1 arch interface. Proper decortication of C1 arch must be ensured. Proper quality grafts should be used. Smoking and osteoporosis leads to negative effect in this fusion area. It is important to realize three important factors working in this specific region: the unique anatomy of this region, complex biomechanical factors, and specific pathology associated factors. Cognizance of all these factors in a patient makes a successful foundation for long-lasting fruitful results. This area has a unique anatomy. The craniovertebral junction encompasses cervicomedullary junction. It is the top story of the column. This is a vital region with the vital centers. This is a junctional region. It is hypermobile, and there is a risk of instability. It has unique anatomy. It has a Y-shaped beam. C1 has no anterior loading structure. And the vital structures are mainly brain, spinal cord, and vertebral artery. The ligaments are the main stabilizing structure. Mobility is at the cost of stability here. Congenital anomaly and traumatic and destructive lesion leads to instability. Main ligaments are providing stability, but destruction of these ligaments, and there is a less bone, there is a less contiguous fusion surface. And we should be aware about that. The surface preparation is extremely important, and when you are laying down the onlay graft, you must try to stabilize by some means. There is a complex biomechanical factors, and alignment of the column is extremely important. And we come to know about these things by plain X-ray, MRI, and CT. Plain X-ray, one can see the instability by doing the dynamic view, and you come to know about all these things, whether there is an existing anomaly, whether there is a bony destruction, there is a neural affection, and how is the overall alignment of the column. There are various radiological parameters, and I will not be going in detail of all these, but these are extremely essential, and we should be aware about if we are treating such regions. Out of all these, there are three important radiological parameters: the clivus canal angle, which is very commonly used; cervicomedullary angle, which is most important to soothe the neural compression or kinking; and cervical lordosis with the distal SVA. This is extremely important. Normal CCA is 145 to 160 degree, and in this case, you can see there was a reduced CCA. Normal CMA, that is a cervicomedullary angle, it ranges from 135 to 175, and in this case you can see there is significant compromise and there is a neurological deficit. Now, in this patient with normal Clivus canal angle, but there is a reduced CMA in this case. So what is more important is the CMA, and which tells the neurological compression. Alignment of the craniocervical region with cervical lordosis and distal balance SBA is extremely important. There are specific pathology associated factors also. There may be congenital anomalies, which anomaly may be there in the osseous, neural, or vascular structure. There may be missing bone, abnormal alignment, abnormal assimilation. There may be neural compression. There are issues of implant anchor. If the bone is missing, there may be poor bony surface for fusion. And there are different acquired pathology. Infection, the TB is very common in our setup. There may be traumatic lesion, there may be degenerative lesion, there may be inflammatory lesion, and all these can lead to neural compression, and there may be instability. Again, here also there may be problem of the implant purchase because bone might be very porotic. The poor bone also leads to poor fusion. So alignment failure, neural compression, and pseudoarthrosis always give poor outcome, and we should be aware about it. Irrespective of the pathology, we must achieve acceptable biomechanical alignment, acceptable cervicomedullary angle, and a stable fixation with bony fusion. This would definitely allow us to have a long-lasting, fruitful outcome in any given case of craniovertebral pathology, and we must pay attention to it. The tuberculosis of craniovertebral region, it is a destructive pathology. It leads to destruction of ligament and bone, and there may be instability in all possible plane. AP direction in coronal plane, there may be scoliotic field, there may be basilar invagination, and there may be rotatory displacement. Now, in this case, you see, there is like a hat on hook appearance. It is slipped forward significantly. The tumbling of the heavy skull, and there is a significant destruction. So all that can lead to a neurological deficit. There is a varied presentation in TB. Now, in this Y-shaped beam, the one side, the arm of the Y is missing, and this has led to eccentric collapse. This patient has neural compression. Tuberculosis is a medical disease with sensitive AKT. There is a good healing. With close observation of all these three key points, craniovertebral TB can be treated conservatively. Now, in this case, there is a CV junction TB. We initially size traction, X-ray with brace. It is nicely aligned, and see the 2 years follow-up. It has healed very nicely. So it can be treated conservatively, but you have to follow all these three key points. Instability in a child significantly destroyed the osseous thing. Occipitocervical fixation and fusion was done in this case. He recovered very nicely. Another case, C1C2 Cox. Now here we found that once there was a good purchase, and we accepted this, but the fixation and fusion was actually extended in the occipital area. Significant bony destruction, increased prevertebral shadow, and here you see the reduced CMA, and that had led to the neurological deficit in this case. We approach from behind only, we drain all the pus. So one moment you open the C1C2 joint, the pus comes out. And this case I had operated 25 years back, and see the amount of the graft, and this gives a very good result: sound, fixation, and fusion. Reducible AAD, we can use transarticular fixation where the bone quality is good. You can use this. Partially reducible C1C2, here you pass a separate screw. And in this case, you can see the laterally the joint has been open, the CR, and then we part the reduction in this case, and you see the good reduction could be achieved. Bone grafting is extremely important. You can see here I had tied the graft with the Vicryl. So this has very easily congenital craniovertebral anomalies. Now, this is another entity which comes very commonly in our clinical practice. Menges was the one person who described this comprehensive surgical approach in great length. Then Dr. Lahiri started doing the plate and screw fixation of atlantoaxial subluxation. Dr. Goel published this in '94. Later on, Dr. Goel also published a joint jamming technique. Now, in 2006, Professor Wang came with this paper, and this was extremely helpful paper for all of us. And as for any neglected joint dislocation, release is required. So now, why not for the anterior structures are contracted and tight, inhibiting the reduction. Once you release the anterior tight structure, reduction is very easy, and we started following this. So we first did the transoral release, where you try to release all the tight structure. This has been released. You cut the longus colli, you cut the capsule of the joint, and you find that you are able to bring the dents very nicely, and it has the basilar invagination has been corrected. Then you close down and turn the patient. Now do the posterior job. So posterior surgery, midline posterior exposure, anchor point, you must have C2, C3, or, two level at least down in all the significant basilar invagination cases. Under contour the rod or plate, and once you approximate it, you get a very good approximation and reduction. Now fusion is a crux, you must fuse it very nicely. Now we got this case who had a mouth opening of less than 1 finger. And here we did extrapharyngeal release. And after this case, we started doing all cases extrapharyngeal release and no transoral surgery. Now, in this case, see the significant amount of the basilar invagination, significant CM angle decrease and neurological deficit. We did with this anterior transverse incision and identify the area. You can see with the traction, it has come down very nicely, and do the posterior fixation and fusion. It has come very well. So this was the pre-op CT. This is post-op CT. You can see the angle has been corrected very nicely. Retrodent space is retained again nicely. Clivus canal angle restored. There is a restoration of CCA and SAC. So you can see even the MRI pre-op and post-op. So there is a restoration of cervicomedullary angle. And we published this in 2015. All irreducible AADs can be converted to reducible AAD by anterior release. There is no difference in the reducibility of AAD, whether anterior release is done by transoral route or extrapharyngeal approach. Extrapharyngeal approach is a commonly used approach and less morbid. So take home message: to have a long-term fruitful outcome, it is extremely important to analyze the existing pathoanatomy, neural compression, and altered biomechanics in each patient in view of existing pathology and possible mode of sturdy fixation, to realize the status of osseous bed for bony fusion, to spend quality time during steps of bony fusion. Failed surgery in this region is extremely difficult to revise and get a long-term good outcome. It should be the first and last surgery at that level. Never compromise in any surgical step and try to be a super fast surgeon. The first chance is the best chance, and aim for the best outcome in given situation. So I'll conclude: irrespective of the type of iliovertebral anomaly, following three key factors decide the long-term outcome: acceptable biomechanical alignment, acceptable cervicomedullary angle, fixation with bony fusion. Taking care of these three factors ensures a long-lasting, fruitful outcome. I thank you very much for your kind attention. Thanks a lot.